I stood outside the brass-framed doors of the Grand Millennium's executive ballroom in Dallas, my laptop bag cutting into my shoulder. The security guard checked my badge twice and shook his head. "Sorry, Mr. Harper, you're not on tonight's guest list." For a second, I thought he was joking. I'd been to SteelCore Technologies Innovation Summit for 8 years running. Through the crack in those double doors, I could see former colleagues in expensive suits, champagne glasses catching light from crystal chandeliers overhead. "I've been with SteelCore since the government contract division launched," I said, keeping my voice steady. "This has to be an error." He tapped his tablet again. "Only pre-approved guests tonight. Just doing my job, sir." That's when Gordon Walsh stepped forward from behind him. Charcoal suit, silk tie that probably cost more than my monthly mortgage payment. His smile was polished, the kind you perfect in boardroom negotiations and Pentagon briefings. "Vincent," he said with a nod, then turned to the security guard. "I've got this." I waited for an explanation, maybe even an apology. Instead, he gave me that look you give someone you're about to let go gently. "We're at capacity tonight, strictly for public-facing leadership," he said. "Investors need to see the future of the company." I looked past him. On the stage backdrop, bold white letters declared, "Defense Innovation Achievement of the Year, Cypher Guard Platform, presented by Ryan Foster." Ryan stood near the podium. Georgetown MBA, 29 years old, Navy suit that fit like it was tailored yesterday. His father sat on the board of 3 major defense contractors. I remembered training him last year, walking him through my security architecture, the encryption protocols I'd spent 18 months perfecting for the Pentagon contract. I thought he was genuinely interested in learning the craft. Turns out I was handing him my life's work. Gordon exhaled slowly. "Don't make this harder than it needs to be, Vincent. Your technical contributions are valued. This is just optics." I pulled out my laptop right there in the marble hallway, typed a quick sequence, attached 12 files, selected the full executive distribution list, and hit send. 7:47 p.m. "Check your inbox," I said, snapping the laptop shut. Then I turned and walked through that gleaming lobby, past waiters with silver trays, through the revolving doors, and into the humid Dallas evening. By the time I reached the parking garage, my phone was vibrating non-stop. I didn't need to check. I knew exactly who was calling. Everything I'd documented over the past 8 months was now live. 22 years of building systems, watching others take credit, staying quiet because I believed results would speak for themselves. Tonight, I didn't make it past that door, but honestly, I didn't need to anymore. My name is Vincent Harper. I was 48 that year. People said I was a brilliant engineer who didn't understand office politics. To them, that was a weakness. To me, it just meant I cared more about protecting national security than playing corporate games. I grew up in Oklahoma, son of a Tulsa oil refinery supervisor who got pushed out when the company brought in younger management. After that, he started a small consulting firm. My mother taught at the local community college and kept us grounded. They taught me one thing: integrity and skill are the only currencies that hold real value. I believed that so completely it nearly destroyed me. I graduated from Texas A&M with degrees in computer engineering and cybersecurity. Did 6 years in the Navy working on classified communication systems before the private sector recruited me. That military background led me to SteelCore Technologies, a defense contractor trying to modernize government cybersecurity infrastructure. Back then, SteelCore was 180 people in a converted warehouse outside Fort Worth. No fancy offices, no corporate bureaucracy, just serious work protecting critical systems. I fit right in. I pulled long hours, lived on coffee and takeout, argued system architecture until dawn with engineers who actually understood what we were building. Then Gordon Walsh arrived as Director of Strategic Partnerships, MBA from Wharton, connections throughout the Pentagon, and the ability to turn technical specs into compelling presentations for generals who'd never seen a line of code. 4 successful defense contracts under his belt. When he entered a room, attention shifted his way. Initially, I respected him. He stopped by my workstation after reading my internal report on next-generation encryption frameworks. "Vincent," he said, "you've built something remarkable here. You just need someone who can package it for decision-makers. Let me help." So we partnered. I engineered the systems, refined the algorithms, built the security protocols. He wrapped everything in presentations that made colonels' eyes light up. "Imagine," he'd tell them, a cybersecurity framework that adapts in real time, predicting threats before they manifest. That's CipherGuard, redefining how we protect American infrastructure. I thought we made a strong team. I was wrong. The first warning sign came during a Pentagon briefing I wasn't invited to. Later, a colleague mentioned Gordon had presented his groundbreaking cybersecurity concept. My 14 months of research, with my name nowhere to be found. I confronted him in the break room. "You didn't mention my work." He patted my shoulder like I was overreacting. "Technical details are just one piece, Vincent. What matters is who tells the story that gets contracts signed. Don't worry. Your name's in all the documentation." I wanted to believe it was an oversight, so I stayed quiet. First mistake. The pattern continued. "I built," he branded. "I solved problems." He took the briefings. When I finally raised concerns with HR, they recited the standard script. "All work developed during company time belongs to Steel Core. Attribution is handled internally." Slowly, I became invisible. Every demo with my digital fingerprints all over it, every presentation using frameworks I'd designed, and I watched myself fade from the narrative. Yet I kept working, believing excellence would eventually be recognized. I was wrong again. 7 months before that awards ceremony, I started something different. A complete overhaul of military-grade encryption, designed for real-time threat analysis across multiple attack vectors. I told no one, used only my personal equipment, worked nights at a 24-hour diner near my apartment in Arlington. I wasn't naive anymore. I refused to lose something I'd never legally owned but had poured my expertise into. I called it Secure Vault, an adaptive defense system that learned from attempted intrusions. The catalyst came 3 weeks after my first working prototype. I attended Steel Core's quarterly mixer at the Petroleum Club, not for networking, but to observe. The company was changing, flush with venture capital, pushing out experienced engineers like me. The spotlight belonged to figures like Ryan Foster, young, connected, featured in Defense Weekly as a rising star in cybersecurity. To me, he was still the analyst who'd asked me to explain the difference between symmetric and asymmetric encryption during his second week. I took a corner table, ordered bourbon, and stayed in the background. 45 minutes in, Gordon arrived with Ryan. They grabbed a booth across the room, either didn't see me or didn't think I mattered. The ambient noise was loud enough that I had to read lips, a skill from my Navy intelligence days. "Excellent presentation to the Joint Chiefs," Gordon said. "They're calling you visionary." Ryan shrugged. "They think the framework is mine." Gordon laughed, sharp at the edges. "As long as they sign contracts, authorship doesn't matter. Vincent isn't the type to cause problems. He'll keep his head down." Ryan looked uncomfortable. "I don't feel right about it. I only optimized the user interface. The core architecture is his." Gordon leaned forward. "Listen carefully. This isn't about who built what. It's about who looks like they built it. You're young, connected, credible with leadership. Vincent?" He shrugged. "He looks exactly like what people expect from a backroom engineer. Skilled doesn't equal visible." After a pause, Gordon raised his glass. "Welcome to how the game actually works." I don't remember sitting there after they left, but when I finally stood, my hands weren't shaking from anger. They were steady with clarity. I'd accepted having my work taken before. What cut deeper was hearing them discuss it like strategy. Cold, calculated, legitimate. That night, everything crystallized. No one was protecting me. The only rules that mattered were what could be hidden or justified. If I wanted what was mine, I couldn't play by their rules. I had to write new ones. I went home, reopened Secure Vault, and coded for 6 straight hours. More importantly, I created a folder on my personal drive. Documentation. Inside, I began recording everything. Timelines showing concepts I'd submitted months before they appeared in company presentations. Email threads with Gordon discussing solutions he later credited to others. Personal repository commits proving I'd built modules weeks before pushing to company systems. Screenshots, technical memos, meeting notes, not for revenge, for proof. Clear, detailed, indisputable. Over the next 3 weeks, I reached out to former colleagues. Engineers who'd been restructured out for not fitting the new culture. Their stories matched mine, real contributions, then erasure once products succeeded. Scott Bradley, former lead of network security, told me Ryan had demonstrated a threat detection algorithm I'd proposed internally, then presented that demo to the board as his breakthrough innovation. It clicked. This wasn't personal, it was systemic. a machine that elevated the right people and burned others as fuel. But every system has vulnerabilities, and I was building something that could exploit them. My wife Sarah noticed the change immediately. We'd been married 18 years, met during my second year at SteelCorp when she was finishing her MBA at SMU. She knew my work patterns better than anyone. "You're staying up later," she said over coffee one Saturday morning. Different kind of late. Not solving problems, creating something. I looked at her across our kitchen table, morning light streaming through windows of the house we'd bought when our son Michael started high school. He was now a sophomore at MIT, majoring in electrical engineering, following a path I'd helped inspire. "I'm working on something outside SteelCorp," I said finally. "Something that's actually mine." Her expression shifted. Sarah had watched me disappear into work for months, coming home frustrated and silent. She'd seen the quarterly reviews where my contributions were minimized, the meetings I wasn't invited to, the projects that moved forward without my name attached. "Good," she said simply. "It's time." That weekend, I told her everything. The stolen frameworks, Gordon's manipulation, Ryan's promotion built on my architecture. She listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding with recognition. "How much do we have saved?" I asked. "Enough for 8 months if we're careful," she said. "Michael's tuition is covered through spring semester. After that..." She didn't finish, but we both understood. Our comfortable middle-class life depended on my SteelCorp salary and benefits. Walking away meant risking everything we'd built. "What if I don't walk away?" I said. "What if I build something while I'm still there?" 6 weeks after that conversation, I sat in a downtown coffee shop across from someone I never imagined meeting. Patricia Morrison, founding partner at Apex Defense Ventures, a firm known for spotting breakthrough military technology before the Pentagon did. She'd backed the team Raytheon acquired for $200 million. Patricia saw potential hidden in code, not just presentations. I'd connected through Scott, who'd pitched her unsuccessfully but maintained the relationship. "Have you considered starting your own company?" he'd asked when I described SecureVault. At the time I hadn't, but sitting across from Patricia, I said for the first time, "Yes, I'm ready." She listened to my presentation without interrupting. I explained that SecureVault wasn't just encryption. It was an adaptive intelligence system that evolved with each attack, creating intuitive protection for critical infrastructure. More importantly, I showed her I hadn't just built an algorithm. I'd designed an ecosystem, data architecture, API frameworks, integration protocols, scalable from single installations to nationwide defense networks. When I finished, she was quiet for a long moment. "You didn't come here asking for money," she said finally. "You came to start a revolution." I kept my expression calm, though adrenaline surged. "I can't promise it'll be easy, but I can promise I won't quit." Patricia smiled. "Good. Hold on to that resolve, Vincent, and never go back asking for a seat at a table that didn't want you there." We shook hands. The seed investment was $2.2 million, enough to launch, hire a core team, and file comprehensive patents for SecureVault. I named the company Pinnacle Defense Solutions. The name captured our mission, reaching the peak of what defense technology could achieve. After that meeting with Patricia, everything moved like precision clockwork. I rented office space in a converted electronics factory, bright, secure, private. I chose my team carefully. Scott handled infrastructure. A former Lockheed network specialist managed integration. 2 engineers from competing firms, tired of politics and performance theater, joined within days. Everyone had been sidelined somewhere else. All carried expertise, precision, and hunger to prove something. We made no announcements, no website, no press releases. We operated in stealth mode, invisible to the outside world. Yet I still went to SteelCorp every morning, sitting at my old workstation as if nothing had changed. Inside, though, 2 realities ran parallel. One already dead, the other just beginning to breathe. The challenge was maintaining both lives without raising suspicion. I arrived at SteelCorp at 8 a.m., handled my assigned projects with the same diligence I always had. But my real work happened after hours, 6 p.m. to midnight at Pinnacle, building something they could never replicate. Sarah understood the pressure. Some evenings, she'd bring dinner to the Pinnacle office, sitting with me while I tested encryption protocols. She'd review legal documents Patricia's attorney had prepared, making sure we hadn't missed anything that could give SteelCorp leverage later. Michael called, she said one night, unpacking Chinese takeout. He's excited about his cybersecurity electives. Wants to know if you'll review his final project. I looked at the code on my screen. Lines that represented everything I'd learned in 22 years of building secure systems. Tell him I'll do more than review it. I'll show him how these systems actually work. For the first time in months, I felt something other than frustration about the future. The following Tuesday brought Gordon's announcement of Ryan's promotion to Chief Technology Architect. He gave a short speech about SteelCore's evolution. Everyone applauded. I clapped too, but my eyes stayed on the slide behind him describing the revolutionary threat prediction framework, word for word from my technical specifications written 14 months earlier. They hadn't just stolen my work. They were rebranding it without me in the room. That afternoon, I filed the Secure Vault patents, timing the submission to coincide with SteelCore's annual award ceremony planning. This time, I didn't care who got the trophy. I'd moved beyond needing their validation. In parallel, I reached out to potential clients through old military contacts. 4 defense contractors who'd used SteelCore's platform but found it inflexible. I gave them early access to Secure Vault demos. The results exceeded every projection. In all 4 trials, system response time improved 38% compared to existing solutions. One client said, "We thought cybersecurity was about building higher walls. This actually thinks like an attacker. I didn't sign contracts yet. Too early. But I knew I had something SteelCore could never replicate. Not just technology, belief. The conviction that innovation isn't about selling more licenses. It's about genuinely protecting what matters. And I would never let them take that again." 8 weeks after filing patents, I got the email about staff allocation for the annual ceremony. I knew the event. Grand Millennium, corporate sponsors everywhere, cameras, speeches about vision and collaboration. Last year, I'd been nominated, then quietly removed from consideration. This year, I expected nothing. The meeting was on the 12th floor, crowded and tense. Gordon sat at the head, radiating confidence. Ryan stood nearby, looking like he already knew the outcome. I took a seat in back, taking notes in my worn notebook, the same one I'd used to sketch ideas when I still believed effort was enough. Gordon recited growth metrics, contract wins, performance benchmarks. Every achievement tied to systems I'd architected in isolation, my name never mentioned. Then came the announcement. "Ryan Foster," he said proudly, "for his transformative contribution to next-generation cybersecurity through adaptive threat intelligence." Applause filled the room. Ryan gave a modest nod, humble enough to deflect jealousy. No one questioned it. I stayed silent. Not surprised, not even hurt. It felt like watching a scripted performance where I'd moved from backstage to the audience. Gordon wrapped up department representation. Engineering will be Ryan, Colin, and Mark. He turned to me with that polite smile that stung. "Vincent, I know you've contributed significantly, but space is limited. Hope you understand." I nodded. "I understand completely. I'll stay and work." And the room went still. No one spoke up. No one defended me. In that silence, I finally understood. I'd never had a place here. Not at that event. Not in their vision of who mattered. That night, I called Scott from my car in the SteelCore parking garage. "Tomorrow's the ceremony," I said. "You ready?" he asked. "More than ready. How's the client documentation looking?" "Clean. 3 signed NDAs, 2 more pending. Patent attorney says we're bulletproof." I sat there watching the building where I'd spent 8 years building systems that protected critical infrastructure, where I'd trained dozens of junior engineers, solved problems that kept government networks secure, and watched other people get credit for work that could have been my legacy. "Scott," I said, "what we're building at Pinnacle, it's not just better technology. What is it then? It's proof that the best ideas don't come from the people with the best connections. They come from the people who actually understand the problems." The next evening, Saturday, while Gordon and Ryan adjusted their ties and rehearsed speeches, I sat in my home office. Sarah was upstairs. Michael was on video call from MIT showing me his semester project, a network intrusion detection system that reminded me why I'd fallen in love with cybersecurity in the first place. "Dad," he said, "this stuff you taught me about threat modeling. It's incredible. Professor says my approach is graduate level." I looked at my son's code, clean and elegant, built with principles I'd learned through decades of trial and error. Principles that SteelCore had taken and packaged as their innovation. "Michael," I said, "let me show you something I've been working on." At 7:47 p.m., while the awards ceremony was reaching its climax, I opened my laptop, composed an email to SteelCore's entire executive leadership, and attached 12 files that would change everything. Recipients: SteelCore Executive Board, CEO, Legal Department, HR, Major Investors. Subject: Technical Documentation and Patent Ownership. Cybersecurity Platform. Urgent review required. I hit send, closed the laptop, and smiled. By 8:15 p.m., my phone was vibrating nonstop. I didn't answer, just watched the screen light up with calls from Gordon, Ryan, and numbers I didn't recognize. Sarah sat beside me, Michael still on video from MIT, both watching as 8 years of silence finally found its voice. The first text came from Scott. "Holy shit, Vincent, it's all over the defense contractor networks. What did you send them?" What I'd sent was proof. Patents filed under my name and Pinnacle Defense Solutions. Timeline documentation showing I'd developed Secure Vault independently using personal resources. Client testimonials comparing our system to SteelCore's platform. And most importantly, a clear notification that any platform replicating Secure Vault's architecture would face immediate legal action. Monday morning, I didn't go to SteelCore. I went to Pinnacle Defense Solutions, my name etched in small letters on frosted glass. The team was already there, laptops open, coffee brewing, energy buzzing through the office. "How bad is the fallout?" I asked. Scott grinned. "Depends on your perspective. SteelCore's legal team has been calling Patricia's office since 6 a.m., but we also got 3 new client inquiries this morning. Word travels fast in defense circles. By Wednesday, Howard Pierce, SteelCore's senior executive director, requested a meeting. Not at SteelCore. I suggested a neutral conference room downtown, leased under Pinnacle's name. No more gray areas. Howard arrived punctually. Navy suit, steel watch, eyes sharp but tired. "We don't want this to escalate," he began. "Your email has created complications." I kept my tone level. "Complicated is generous for 22 years of stolen work." He nodded slightly. Acknowledging, not apologizing. What would it take to resolve this quietly? From his briefcase, he pulled an envelope. An acquisition offer for Secure Vault and Pinnacle Defense Solutions. I'd return as Director of Advanced Systems. Triple my salary plus equity. Ryan would transition to legacy systems, he added. You'd lead all cybersecurity development. I didn't open the envelope. "Mr. Pierce, I'm not going back to a system where I have to prove my worth daily while others just show up with the right connections." He leaned back. "You think clients will stick with a startup that lacks infrastructure and enterprise credibility? They don't need credibility. They need results. And they've seen 38% performance improvements in 6 weeks, something SteelCore hasn't managed in 3 straight quarters." Howard was quiet for a long moment. Then he stood. "This conversation never happened." "Agreed," I said. "But the patents are permanent." 2 weeks later, Patricia called with news that changed everything. Fortress Capital wants into our Series A round. They're offering $6.8 million. What's the catch? No catch. They've been tracking our client results. Word is that SteelCore lost 2 major contracts last month, both cited performance concerns. By month 6, we'd signed contracts with 6 defense contractors, 2 energy companies, and 1 financial services firm, all former SteelCore clients who'd quietly migrated to our platform. We moved into a larger space near the Federal District, hired 28 full-time employees, and began international expansion discussions. I hired carefully, not by resume prestige, but by that look in someone's eyes, the spark of someone overlooked but never stopped creating. Diana Collins, denied promotion at SteelCore for lacking executive presence, now led client integration. Mark Stevens, who left after his work got outsourced, headed core development. Each carried a story, a piece of what the old system had wasted. The work wasn't easy. Some nights I slept at the office. Once a memory leak nearly crashed our demo for the Joint Chiefs. We fixed it in 28 hours, sent a patch with full technical breakdown. They didn't just stay, they expanded to 4 additional modules. That's when I knew we'd built something different, a company unafraid of mistakes, only of refusing to fix them. 18 months after the night I was told to wait outside, I stood backstage at the National Cybersecurity Conference in Washington, D.C. In 10 minutes, I'd deliver the keynote address to 800 cybersecurity professionals, government officials, and industry leaders. My phone buzzed with a text from Sarah. "Michael's watching the live stream from his dorm. We're proud of you." I looked out at the audience through a gap in the curtains. In the third row sat Ryan Foster. He looked different. The arrogance in his eyes had softened into something that resembled growth. When they announced my name, I walked onto that stage wearing a dark navy sweater, the same color as Pinnacle's logo. I wanted to represent what we'd built, not what I'd walked away from. "You can wait outside," I began, smiling slightly. A murmur rippled through the audience. I let it settle before continuing. That's what someone once told me 18 months ago when I stood outside a room where I thought I'd finally be recognized. But instead of waiting, I opened another door. I told my story without embellishment, never mentioned SteelCore by name, never said Gordon or Ryan. Because when you tell a story truthfully, people recognize themselves in it. I spoke about redesigning more than technology, redesigning how work should function. A company where every member owned a piece of what they built, where mistakes weren't punished, they were analyzed, where ideas didn't have to fight politics to survive. When I ended with "the most powerful seat isn't the one someone gives you, it's the one you build with people who believe in you," the room rose to its feet. 3 days later, I received an email from Ryan. No excuses, no long explanations. I was wrong. I stood on the wrong side. "If you ever need help, I'm here." I saved the message, not as a reminder of victory, but as proof that people can change if they're brave enough to admit they were wrong. That same week, Pinnacle closed partnerships with defense contractors in Canada and the UK. We now had 42 employees from 8 countries, all sharing one belief: work should reward the people who actually do it. I still arrive at the office first every morning, walk the floor, check in with engineers, listen to new ideas from the design team. We're not the ones who left the old game anymore. We've become the ones designing the new one. From our office rooftop, I can see SteelCore's building across downtown Dallas. But I feel no bitterness, no anger, just acknowledgement of a past that taught me sometimes you have to leave to truly grow. Now I want to say this for anyone listening. If you've ever been pushed away from the table, told you're not ready, not connected, not enough, remember this. You don't need their invitation. Build your own table, and someday the same people who turned you away will ask for a seat. We started with an email. Now we're rewriting the entire game. That table I once dreamed of sitting at, it's right here in this office. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't getting back at those who wronged you. It's building something so much better that their betrayal becomes the best thing that ever happened to you.